Yar, matey, will Godforge walk the plank, or will they find me buried treasure? What's going on, everybody? I'm your boy JKG. This is the JKG Godforge channel. Welcome back. I hope you're doing well. It is time for another Friday challenge. Not Friday leaks. I apologize for if you thought this was an actual leak video. This is more of just a challenge video. Susie and the team over there with Fateless, they did this a couple weeks ago for us, and it went over pretty well in their mind. So they wanted to go ahead and challenge us content creators again. They wanted to give us the challenge of, if we had the opportunity to create a brand new faction from our own minds, how would we flesh it out? What kind of heroes are we going to put in there, and what would the overall vibe be? For me, growing up, I was very much into outlaw cultures and stuff like that. I was very big into being the robber when you play cops and robbers. I was always the bad guy. I always wanted to be the bad guy. I'm not a bad guy in real life. I'm a nice guy in real life. But you know, it was just a way for me to be the bad guy. I play GTA, and I do the most heinous stuff in GTA, just because it's a game, you know, it's not real. So it was pretty obvious for me, pirate themed. So we're going to have a pirate faction in Godforge, which means we're going to have basically real life people that really existed in the world, in the game, which is not unheard of, because it's Godforge, gods and legends. These are legendary human beings that did legendary things. Some good, some not quite so savory. So the way I want to do it, I want to have some legendaries. I want to have some epics. I want to have some rares, and even some like common uncommons. I'm going to pick 4 from each category. And then we'll kind of go over them and why. I brought up a Google search page here. Basically, we're looking up the what did I search? The most famous pirates of all time. It's kind of where I was looking. I knew a ton of the names and stuff. However, it was kind of one of those deals where some of the names I just blanked out on. Some of them I 100% knew. Watched Black Sails. Big Black Sails fan. So you kind of get introduced to a lot of the different pirates of that age in that show, kind of their origin stories, if you will, some of them. So we're gonna start out there. We're gonna Tarantino this. We're gonna go backward forward, right? So we're gonna work our way up to the legendaries. So we are gonna start with our common / commons. There's only gonna be 4 because these could be construed any way possible. These are not gonna be any actual captains. These are gonna just be like the crewmen, if you will, on a pirate ship. So first and foremost, we are going to have the cabin boy. I did a little research before pulling this up, and what their job duties actually were. So the cabin boy is usually in his early teens. He helps the cook in the kitchen by carrying buckets of food from the kitchen to the forecastle. He relays messages as well. He must become familiar with sails, lines, ropes, and the use of each in all sorts of weather, tying knots. He must scramble up the rigging into the yards when sails need to be trimmed. He can stand watch like other crewmen, or act as a helmsman in good weather, holding the wheel to keep the ship steady. Kind of a jack of all trades. You know, you're gonna be the cabin boy is the basically, he's just your gopher. I worked in a body shop, and we had an unofficial position called a gopher. You're basically the one, when you don't have anything to do, you're sweeping shop. When you have something to do, you're doing that. When you sweep to the shop, if somebody needs to go pick something up, it's your job to go pick it up. That's basically the vibe of a cabin boy. So that's the first one that we're going to go with there. Next, we're going to have the lookout, which This one, the entire role that I found, this role tends to be used as punishment for the crew. So you're not a full-time lookout. You're not the dude up in the crow's nest full-time. You're being put there because you pissed them off. You pissed the captain off. You pissed the first mate off, something like that. You're up there as a punishment. You did something wrong, and you're the one up there to get seasick and throw up over the side of that crow's nest, and possibly get flown out in bad weather and all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty much one there that is on every ship back in the day, and it's a very integral thing. However, it's not seen as a good thing. A little bit more unsavory. Next up, we're gonna have the cook, and the cook is responsible for all the food related matters. He must make certain there's enough food and water, rum on board the planned cruise. He must cook meals and suggest rationing when necessary. He butchers meat brought back by hunting parties. The cook is the only man trusted to light a fire below decks. He must he must maintain the necessary tools for both cooking and butchering. The cook takes orders from and reports to the boatswain. So cook, cookie, whatever name you're going to call them, chef, if you will, very important to every ship, because if you don't have a good cook, you're going to have bad food. You're going to get sick, and possibly worse than that. You're possibly even going to, die from, ill-prepared meat and ill-prepared food. So you definitely want a good cook, very integral, very familiar with knives. So definitely something you can, somebody you can trust in a fight, if you know what I'm saying. They're going to have cool knives. They're going to always be sharp, that kind of thing. Cook, definitely high on my list for, an uncommon / common that should be in this kind of a faction. And last but not least, I had to pick this one mainly because the name just made me laugh. It made me think of a literal, I'll tell you the name. It's the powder monkey. Let that sink in. The powder monkey. It made me think in my mind of just having a monkey on your ship that is going to run your gunpowder to and from and stuff. That's not what it is. However, in a game like this, that could actually be pretty cool, right? You have a little monkey. They're going to be your supply guy. But basically, the powder monkeys tend to be children, usually early teens, who are small enough to hide behind the gunwale. They supply the gunning crew with black powder by running below deck to retrieve it. They also are going to be used as messengers, sending messages to and from each location. So pretty much they are cabin boys in training. Basically, they're going to be, doing the least amount of actual work. However, they're going to be bringing that black powder to those cannons, which is very, very necessary for the life of a pirate. All right, so now we're going to go on to our rares. And again, we're doing 4 in each category. So next, we're going to start with Edward Ned Lowe. And if we come over here to this beautiful, beautiful, just random ass, Google page, where was Ned Lowe on our list here? He is listed as Edward Lowe. And he is right here, Edward Lowe. From 1690 to 1724, Edward Lowe was a pirate of English origin during the latter days of the golden age of piracy in the early 18th century. Lowe was born into poverty in Westminster, London, and was a thief from an early age. He moved to Boston, Massachusetts as a young man when his wife died in childbirth in late 1719. He was active in the Caribbean and the Atlantic. One of the Lowther's lieutenants included Edward Lowe, Matthew Luke, an Italian pirate. Edward Lowe, Captain Edward Ned Lowe, was born in Westminster. He was one of the most brutal men to ever command a pirate ship. So, Ned Lowe, definitely not one to be trifled with. One that you're going to want to avoid if you are running goods in the Caribbean. So definitely one for the books. Next, we are going to have right up here, top right, Bartholomew Bart Roberts. This is commonly known as Black Bart. Bartholomew Roberts was born John Roberts. How do you get Bartholomew from John? I'll never know. He was a Welsh pirate who was measured by vessels captured, the most successful pirate of the golden age of piracy. During his piratical career, he took over 400 prize ships. Although most were, mere fishing boats, he still took 400 boats. Like, that is absolutely insane. He was mainly active in the Caribbean and served under first Hal Davis and later Bartholomew Roberts. Lee Ashworth, an unknown. That is not about him. Why are we talking about Lee Ashworth? Okay, so Bartholomew Roberts' nickname, Black Bart, was a tall, handsome, flamboyantly dressed 18th century pirate from Wales. Yeah, I think if you're going to be named Bartholomew, you should, back then in the 1700s, you are 100% going to be, needing to be a flamboyant character. So he could definitely have that vibe of the flamboyant homie, right? So we all know who we're talking about there. We all have that one friend that just, why are you wearing what you wear? I'm that friend out of my friend group. Next up, we have Mary Read right down here. And we're just going to go ahead and click into the Wikipedia from now on here. Mary Read was active in the roughly the same age here. For everybody, Read was likely born in England. General history says she began dressing as a boy at a young age. At first at her mother's urging in order to receive inheritance money. Then as a teenager in order to join the British military. She then married and upon her husband's death moved to the West Indies around 1715. Around August in 1720, she joined Jack Rackham's crew, dressing as a man alongside Anne Bonny. Her time as a pirate was short-lived as she, Bonny, and Rackham were arrested in October 1720. Rackham was executed in November, but Read and Bonny both claimed to be pregnant during their trials and received delayed sentences. Read died while imprisoned in April of 1721. So shout out to saying you're pregnant to get out of, being hanged for piracy. That is pretty freaking baller, if you ask me. Definitely worth being on the list. Next and last but not least in our rare category, we are going to have right below lovely Mary Read, we're going to have Calico Jack, 1682 to 1720. We're going to hop over to the wiki. And Calico Jack, John Rackham, hanged November 18, 1720, commonly known as Calico Jack, was an English pirate captain operating in the Bahamas and in Cuba during the 18th century. His nickname was derived from the calico clothing that he wore, while Jack is a nickname for John. Who knew that? Why would you call somebody named John Jack? Different times, right? Rackham was active towards the end 1718 to 1720 in the golden age of piracy. He's most remembered for having two female crew members, Mary Read, his lover, Mary Read and his lover, Anne Bonny. Rackham deposed Charles Vane from his position as captain of the sloop Ranger, then cruised the Leeward Islands, Jamaica Channel, and Windward Passage. He accepted the King's pardon in 1719, and he moved to New Providence, where he met Anne Bonny, who was married to James Bonny at the time. He returned to piracy in 1720 by stealing a British sloop, and Anne joined him. Their new crew included Mary Read, who was disguised as a man at the time. After a short run, Rackham was captured by Jonathan Barnett, an English privateer, in 1720, put on trial by Sir Nicholas Laws, governor of Jamaica, and hanged in November of that year in Port Royal, Jamaica. Shout out to Jonathan Barnett for being a narc. Plain and simple. Why you gotta go and do that, man? Pirates ain't do nothing to nobody. That is not true. Not true at all. But still, snitches get stitches. Unless you're, giving up a pirate, then, you're probably going to get a lordship or some land and something like that. So, yeah, Calico Jack, aka John Rackham. That is a pretty cool name. So that's going to bring us over into our epic category. Again, 4 in each category. We are going to scroll on down here to Black Caesar, unknown to 1718. And we'll take a look here. Black Caesar, later known as Black Caesar, was a West African pirate who operated during the Golden Age of piracy. He served aboard the Queen Anne's Revenge of Edward Teach, aka Blackbeard. Was one of the surviving members of the crew following Blackbeard's death at the hands of Lieutenant Robert Maynard in 1718. Myths surrounding his life is that he was an African royalty and terrorized the Florida Keys for years before joining Blackbeard, have been intermixed with legends and fictional accounts, as well as other pirates. So Black Caesar, definitely one that definitely should be included, because there's not enough representation of the pirates and crewmen that were not, frankly, not white. Why do we keep going to the YouTube page here? Next, we are going up here to Zhang Yi Sao from 1775 to 1844. Zhang Yi Sao, born Shiyang, also known as Shi Zhangju, Shekyung Qingxi, was a Chinese pirate leader in the active in the South China Sea from 1801 to 1810. Born as Shi Yang in 1775 to humble origins, she married a pirate named Zhang Yi at 26 in 1801. She was named Zhang Yi Sao, wife of Zhang Yi, by the people of Guangdong. After the death of her husband in 1807, she took control of his pirate confederation with the support of Zhang Yi's adopted son, Zheng Bao, with whom she entered into a relationship and later married. A little freaky, a little Alabama-esque, if you ask me. As the unofficial commander of the Guangdong Pirate Confederation, her fleet was composed of 400 junks and between 40,000 and 60,000 pirates. In 1805, her ships entered into conflict with several major powers, such as the East India Trade Company, boo, and the Portuguese Empire and the Great Qing. So, yeah, we don't like the East India Company for various reasons. They were worse than the pirates, to be completely honest, in my opinion. The Portuguese Empire, I am part Portuguese, so I'm gonna recuse myself from that one. And the Great Qing, I am not. I have no qualms with any of that. So, yeah, Yang Ji Sao, definitely, again, needs some representation a little higher up than just, the commons, uncommons there, because the women pirates, think about how crazy it was, right? To be a pirate in those days and not be, just a regular dude, right? Whether you're Black Caesar and a West African guy, or Yang Jizao, Anne Bonny, Mary Read, you're jumping through all these social hoops just to do this. And then once you get there, you're earning think of how crazy and badass these people would have to be to stand out amongst their peers, right? So that's why Yang Jisao is here. Next on my list is Charles Vane. So Charles Vane is going to be active 1680 to 1721. Charles Vane was an English pirate who operated in the Bahamas during the Golden Age of piracy. Vane was likely born in the Kingdom of England around 1680. One of his first pirate ventures was under the leadership of Henry Jennings during Jennings' attack on the salvage camp for the wrecked Spanish 17 1715 treasure fleet off the coast of Florida. By 1717, Vane was commanding his own vessels and was one of the leaders of the Republic of Pirates in Nassau. 1718, Vane was captured but agreed to stop his criminal actions and declared his intention to accept a king's pardon. However, just months later, he and his men, including Edward England and Jack Rackham, returned to piracy, unlike some other notable pirate captains of the age like Benjamin Hornigold and Samuel Bellamy. Vane was known for his cruelty and in court documents is said to have beaten and interrogated sailors from ships he captured. In February 1719, Vane was caught in a storm in the Bay Islands and was marooned on an uncharted island. Upon being discovered by a passing British ship, he was arrested and brought to Port Royal, where he was eventually tried and hanged in March 1721. You have to be incredibly vicious and brutal to have that distinction amongst your peers. You have to, right? That is just outrageous. And next on my list, he does not show up on this list here. However, we are going to take a look at John Silver, the pirate. Does not exist. All right. So John Silver doesn't officially exist. However, Long John Silver, you may know that he makes really good chicken and, fish if you like fish. So he is one of those ones, kind of more of a fictional character that I wanted to add because I loved his portrayal in Black Sails. He has one of the coldest lines ever where he... I believe it's right after he stomps a guy's head into oblivion, or right before. But yeah, one of the coldest lines in television history, in my opinion, is attributed to John Silver. But Long John Silver, fictional character and the main antagonist in the 1883 novel Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. The most colorful and complex character in the book, he continues to appear in popular culture, missing his leg and parrot in particular. His missing leg and parrot in particular have greatly contributed to the image of the pirate in popular culture. This is where we get the picture of the peg leg pirate, the bird on the shoulder, all of that, right? So definitely one that we want to keep an eye on. Long John Silver has a parrot named Captain Flint, so definitely one, if we're thinking in Godforge terms, he has to have the parrot. He has to have the peg leg. Named Captain Flint in honor or mockery of his former captain, who generally perches on Silver's shoulder and is known to chatter pirate seafaring phrases like "pieces of 8" and "stand by to go about." Silver uses the parrot as another means of gaining Jim's trust in the book by telling the boy all manner of exciting stories about the parrot's buccaneer history. So yeah, definitely a means to an end. However, Long John Silver, definitely a character out of all characters, right? So that is the last of our epics. And I do believe John Silver, it fits the word epic very, very well. Last but not least, we're going to have our 4 legendary heroes for the pirate faction in Godforge. We are going to start with Sir Francis Drake, unknown to 1596. Sir Francis Drake was an English explorer and privateer, best known for his circumnavigation of the world in a single expedition between 1577 and 1580. This was the first English circumnavigation and second circumnavigation overall. He is also known for participating in the early English slaving voyages of his cousin, Sir John Hawkins and John Lovell. Having started as a simple seaman in 1588, he was part of the fight against the Spanish Armada as vice admiral. Then during that, we're going to kind of skip ahead here, but basically he was... where is it? During Drake's circumnavigation, inaugurated an era of conflict with the Spanish. The Anglo-Spanish War began. Drake was in command of an expedition to the Americas that attacked Spanish shipping and ports. When Philip II sent the Spanish Armada to England in 1588 as a precursor to its invasion, Drake was second in command of the English fleet that fought against and repulsed the Spanish fleet. A year later, he led the English Armada in a failed attempt to destroy the remaining Spanish fleet. Drake was a member of Parliament for 3 constituencies, Camelford in 1581, Boston in 1584, and Plymouth in 1593. Drake's exploits made him a hero to the English, but his privateering led to the Spanish to brand him as a pirate, known to them as El Drake or El Drake, the dragon in Old Spanish. He died of dysentery after his failed assault in Panama in 1596. Dysentery, if you don't know, you do not want to die from dysentery. That is a terrible, terrible death. I think I would rather be hanged than, in those days, I would rather be hanged than die of dysentery. Yeah, if you don't know, look it up. It's terrible. Next up, we are going to have Captain Kidd, aka William Kidd, unknown to 1701. Captain Kidd, also known as Captain William Kidd or simply Captain Kidd, was a Scottish privateer. Conflicting accounts exist regarding his early life, but he was likely born in Dundee and later settled in New York City. New York City. By 1690, Kidd had become a highly successful privateer commissioned to protect English interests in North America and the West Indies. By 1695, Kidd received royal commission from the Earl of Belmont, the governor of New York, Massachusetts Bay, and New Hampshire, to hunt down pirates and enemy French ships in the Indian Ocean. He received a letter of marque and set sail on a new ship, the Adventure Galley, the following year. On his voyage, he failed to find many targets, lost much of his crew, and faced threats of mutiny. In 1698, Kidd captured his greatest prize, the 400-ton Cadog merchant, a ship hired by Armenian merchants and captained by an Englishman. The political climate in England had turned against him, however, and he was denounced as a pirate. Belmont engineered Kidd's arrest upon return to Boston and sent him to stand trial in London. He was found guilty and hanged in 1701. So that is the life of a privateer. If you piss off the wrong guy, all it took back then was pissing off the wrong guy. And instead of being an under contract privateer, you are not. You are a pirate, and you are thusly you're taken out. You're relieved of your duties in life at that point. Crazy lifestyle that these guys had, but it was definitely one for the books. Next up, legendary. Last 2 legendaries, and they are right next to each other. Right up here at the top, we are going to start out here with Anne Bonny. Anne Bonny, who was active 1697 to 1720, was a pirate who served under John Calico Jack Rackham. Amongst the few recorded female pirates in history, she's become one of the most recognized pirates of the golden age of piracy, as well as in the history of piracy in general. Much of Bonny's background is unknown. The first biography of Bonny comes from Captain Charles Johnson's 1724 book, A General History of Pirates. I love the spelling on that with the Y. Though the information presented by Johnson about her is considered dubious, according to Johnson, Bonny was born in Ireland, the illegitimate daughter of an attorney and his servant. Bonny and her father would later move to Carolina, where she married a sailor named James Bonny. Though Johnson's version of events has become generally accepted, there is little evidence to support them. At an unknown date, Bonny traveled to the Bahamas, where she became acquainted with the pirate John Rackham. Bonny would join Rackham's crew alongside another female pirate, Mary Read, who we already talked about, and helped steal the sloop William in 1720. Rackham and his crew would carry out a number of attacks on merchant ships in the West Indies until they were captured following a brief naval engagement. In October 1720, Rackham, along with the all-male crew members was tried and sentenced to death, but Bonny and Reed had their executions stayed due to both of them claiming to be pregnant. Reed died in jail around mid-April 1721, but Bonny's fate is unknown. That is legendary, if I don't say so myself. Again, think of how badass you gotta be to be a woman pirate back in those days, especially just being a woman that's not doing womanly duties, right? You're not just being a seamstress or being a maid somewhere. You're out there being a friggin' pirate, and you are making a name for yourself, and you are out there just doing the most legendary shit imaginable. So Anne Bonny has my respect. Tip of the cap to Anne Bonny in history, but yeah, shout out to her and Mary Reed, claiming to be pregnant and getting out of that hanging. That's pretty baller, if you ask me. I cannot deny it. Last but not least, today we are going to talk about the one, the only Blackbeard. Like it's always Blackbeard, right? Blackbeard, Edward Teach, from 1680 to 1718, better known as Blackbeard, was an English pirate who operated around the West Indies and the eastern coast of Britain's North American colonies. Little is known about his early life, but he may have been a sailor on a privateer ship during Queen Anne's War, before he settled in the Bahamian island of New Providence, a base for Captain Benjamin Hornigold, whose crew Teach joined around 1780. Wow, not 1786, 1716. Hornigold placed him in command of a sloop that he had captured, and the two engaged in numerous acts of piracy. Their numbers were boosted by the addition to their fleet of two more ships, one of which was commanded by Stede Bonnet, but Hornigold retired from piracy towards the end of 1717, taking the two vessels with him. Teach captured a French slave ship known as La Concorde, renamed her Queen Anne's Revenge, equipped her with 40 guns, and crewed her with over 300 men. He became a renowned pirate, his nickname derived from his thick black beard and fearsome presence. He was reported to have tied lit fuses, aka slow matches, under his hat to frighten his enemies. He formed an alliance of pirates and blockaded the port of Charlestown, South Carolina, ransoming the port's inhabitants. He then ran the Queen Anne's Revenge aground on a sandbar near Beaufort, North Carolina. He parted company with Stede Bonnet and settled in Bath, North Carolina, also known as Bath Town, where he accepted a royal pardon. However, he was soon back at sea, where he attracted the attention of Alexander Spotswood, the governor of Virginia. Spotswood arranged for a party of soldiers and sailors to capture him on 22 November 1718. Following a ferocious battle, Teach and several of his crew were killed by a small force of sailors led by Lieutenant Robert Maynard. Teach was a shrewd and calculating leader who spurned the use of violence, relying instead on his fearsome image to elicit the response that he desired from whom he robbed. He was romanticized after his death and became the inspiration of an archetypal pirate in works of fiction across many genres. Yeah, the most notorious, the most infamous, the most everything, Blackbeard has to be a legendary in this pirate faction for Godforge. That's going to do it for this one, guys. If you like this one, definitely hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. Comment below if you have a cool name for the pirate faction, because that's the one thing that I couldn't settle on a name. So right now, we're just going to call it the Pirate Faction with a Y, based on the other spelling. But yeah, let me know in the comments below who should be added to this list of pirate heroes and where they should land. Are they a legendary? Are they an epic? Are they, a rare, common, uncommon? Let me know who you want to see in this faction. I love pirates, so I hope you guys enjoy this one, and I will see you in the next Godforge video. JKG, out.